Hello everyone, my name is Dan, I like to program. Let's get into this week's problem. So we're going to write a function to find the longest common prefix string amongst an array of strings. If there is no common prefix, we will return an empty string, which is just the two quotes. So we got some constraints up here in the corner. We have string length will be greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 200. This is going to represent the array of strings, so the array will have at least one item will be less than 200 items, or it will be 200 items. And then strS I, which will be the individual strings inside of the string array, will be greater than or equal to 0, their length, and they will be less than or equal to 200, so 200 or less characters. And lastly, the strings inside of the array will consist of only lowercase English letters. This will eliminate the difficulties of accounting for capital letters in our algorithm. And so we'll go to the first example. The input, CRS, is equal to flower, flow, and flight. The output would be FL, because flower, flow, and flight all start with FL. And if you look over at flower and flow, they also have O's that are common prefixes, but flight does not, so it ends there and we return FL. The example 2 would be STRS equals dog, race car, car. There's a common ending, which is car, but no common prefix, so we would just return an empty string, which is just two quotes, and that's just about it. Let's get into the code. Alright, we're in IntelliJ now, and I've already gotten started. We have the class longest common prefix. We have a method called array2string. This helps us print out the string later, or this helps us print out the array of strings later. And then we have the method longest common prefix, which is what we'll use for our algorithm today. And then we have the main method. It just has some testing arrays and then some testing print statements as well. If we print it out right here, oops, let me get rid of that, I was doing something earlier. If we test it out here, we'll just see that it prints out all the arrays. It tells us what the common prefix is. Right now it's not giving us anything because our method is blank, but we'll fix that. We will start out by considering the first, let me close out this. We'll start out by considering the first case, the first base case of what could happen if we have a string array passed called strs. What is the easiest thing that could happen? Well, the easiest thing that could happen would be if the string was just empty. If strs dot length is equal to 0, return empty string. So if the length is 0, that means there's nothing there. Longest common prefix is just nothing. And we'll move on, and we'll start out with a string. We'll call it prefix, and we'll set this equal to the first item in the array of strings. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to use a for loop to go through every single item in the array, every single string in the array. And then we're going to say, hey, is this first item inside of the other items? If it's not, is this item minus or chopping off the last character in all the other items? If it's not, then is this string chopping off 2 characters from the end in all of the other strings? And then we're just going to keep chopping off the end as many times as we can until it's an empty string. And if it wasn't in, if it wasn't located, if this substring wasn't in any of the other strings, or if it wasn't in every string in the array, then we're going to return just an empty string like we did right here. And so to do this, we're going to do a for loop. We're going to say int I is equal to 0, I is less than strs length, and I plus I. And then we're going to use a while loop, which is what we're going to use to chop off the end of the next string until we have a prefix that matches in this string. We're going strs I. This is the current string, whichever string we're at in the array. If we're going to say index of prefix, while the current string, we'll say while the prefix, while the index, the starting index of the prefix in the current string is not equal to 0, then we continue our while loop. So what this is essentially saying, let me explain how the index of works. Let's say we have a string called my string. We set that equal to hello. And then we have a string called my substring. And we set that equal to hello. Oops. And then we do system.print.out statement. We say my string dot index of, and then say my substring. We'll go into this and we'll say this is our string and we want to get the index of this substring inside of my string. So we'll say, where does substring start in my string? And we'll say it doesn't start at 0, but it does start at 1. So if we run this without all the extra, oops, guess it does it automatically for me. And so if we run this, we will return 1. And so this just tells us where the substring starts. And if we're looking for the prefix will always start at 0. So LO will never be a prefix. So if that was our string and this was another string, then we'd eventually return just an empty string. But anyways, so we'll say if the prefix, the starting index of the prefix, which we want to be 0, if this starting prefix is inside of the current string and it starts at the first character, or if it doesn't start the first character, then we will do prefix is equal to prefix dot substring 0, and then we'll go to prefix dot length -1. And this is how we chop off the last character. We just go all the way to we just make a substring and we just chop off the end by saying prefix dot length -1 every time. We keep doing this over and over again, but if we ever encounter the fact that prefix is empty, then we will return an empty string. Because if prefix is empty, that means we've run out of strings to look for in all of the other strings, and that's it, we're done. There is no common prefix amongst them. And then if it gets through the while loop, that means we go on to the next string. And then we go through the while loop one more time. We'll see if it's in the next string. And if it is, hooray, we'll go through the for loop again. And we'll keep doing this for every item in the string array. And if there is a common prefix, it will be in prefix. And if there's not, it will eventually return these quotes. So instead of returning these empty quotes at the end, we'll return prefix at the end. And that seems like it's just about it. Let's try testing it. Let me get rid of this extra stuff right here. And if we run this, we'll see that, let me expand this, the given array is flower, flow, flight. The longest common prefix is FL, which it is. And then the given array is arcing, arc, arctic, arcs. The longest common prefix is arc. And then the given array is dog, race, car, car. There's no common prefix. And the given array is there is no common prefix. And there is no common prefix. So the code works out. And that's just about it. So if you enjoyed, I wonder why this is here. Feel free to like, subscribe, whatever, do what you want. I will have this linked to the GitHub down below in the description. And have a great day. Goodbye.